The last module for the lymphatic system is all about cancer. We'll be doing a lab in this in class as well. You should come to that lab. The objectives of this module are to define the basic vocabulary, the genetics, and the treatments of cancer. Some of the information that I used was from the American Cancer Society webpage and the National Cancer Institute. You should check these out for more information. The websites are listed on the last page as well. Cancer comes from the word crab, which is what cells look like with long appendages, and the specialization or study of cancer is called oncology. Most RNs who work with cancer patients get special training and certification in oncology nursing. Some of the definitions you should know include benign versus malignant tumors. Benign tumors are self-contained, not deadly until the space it is growing in affects life, like in a heart valve, for example, or in the brain. Malignant means there's uncontrolled growth of an abnormal cell that may spread to other tissues, so the cells have learned or have the ability now to move. The spreading of malignant cancer cells is referred to as metastasis. It usually means it's going into another organ system via the blood or lymph. Cancer that originates from epithelial tissue is a carcinoma. So cancer of the skin, for example, is a carcinoma. Cancer that originates in connective tissue is referred to as a sarcoma. Blood and bone cancers are sarcomas. So cancers are almost always labeled as carcinomas or sarcomas because you don't find cancers originating in muscle fibers or from neurons. In this example picture you can see that there are cancer cells starting in the skin here, so this would be a carcinoma, and the tumor stays encased within the skin. It would be still considered benign, but once it has moved out of the skin system and into the blood or into another tissue type, it is considered metastasizing or malignant. Some images here of benign tumors that can cause problems. Even though they're benign, it would cause weakness of the bone here, for example, or maybe affect speech or coordination in the brain, depending on where the tumor is. Cancer rates depend on sex, age, location, occupation, diet, lifestyle, race, ethnic groups, and probably even more things they don't know about yet. Genetic susceptibility does play a big role in the chances of getting cancer, but not all cancers are from mutations that you're born with. Some happen later because of an exposure to a carcinogen or a virus. 1 in 3 people in America will develop cancer. It is the second leading cause of death. Because there's both genetic and environmental causes, it's difficult to, pinpoint why exactly some people get cancer and other people's do not. When it comes to new cases, breast cancer is the #1 kind of cancer diagnosed in women, and prostate is the #1 in men. However, lung cancer, because it affects both sexes, is #2. However, this is the number of new cases. There's a difference between cases and estimated deaths. By far and away, lung cancer kills way more people. One of the reasons is because it's diagnosed so late, it often has already metastasized. Breast cancer, even though it's the most common kind of cancer diagnosed, doesn't kill nearly as many people as lung cancer, for example. Some of the reasons suggested for cancers being linked to genetics is that all cancer cells have mutated DNA. The DNA has been damaged somehow. How it gets damaged or mutated can be any number of things. Sometimes there are errors at birth. These mutations generally cause cancer or cause cells to have uncontrolled mitosis. Sometimes people who can't repair DNA are more likely to get cancer, so there's mutations in repair genes. Other times the mutations occur later, perhaps because of an exposure, or it's just random mutations due to when the cell divides, the DNA's got to replicate. Sometimes there's an error in that process. The genes that regulate mitosis are either proto-oncogenes, which turn on mitosis, or tumor suppressor genes, which turn mitosis off. Mutations in either one of these can lead to cancer. Some viruses can insert their proto-oncogenes into our genomes and take over a cell's ability to replicate, and then the cell becomes cancerous. Chromosomal damage can also occur during DNA replication. We have enzymes that fix these, but they don't always catch everything, and sometimes the mutation actually is in the repair genes. Carcinogens can also alter or damage DNA. There's many known carcinogens, and you can click on this link if you want to get a list of the ones we know about, but there's probably others that we don't yet know about. Also, if a chemical or carcinogen or a particle has caused cancer in anything, it's on the carcinogen list. It doesn't necessarily mean it causes cancer in everyone, every time. Unmutated genes regulate mitosis. Proto-oncogenes are not yet mutated, but once they're mutated, they're referred to as oncogenes. And proto-oncogenes are genes that are involved in turning mitosis on. Tumor suppressor genes are genes that are involved in turning mitosis off. Mutations in either one of these can lead to cancer in that cell because then you can't regulate mitosis, and by definition, cancer is uncontrolled mitosis. Cells which become cancerous are changed. They don't do their normal job, and they are transformed into little replicating machines and stop doing what they should be doing, being skin cells or liver cells or lung cells or whatever. Anyway, there are many genes that we know once mutated can lead to cancer, but there's probably other ones that we don't yet know about. As I said, the cells become transformed once they become cancerous. They stop looking like normal cells, their histology looks different, and they replicate without break. When cancer is staged, a histologist will determine how far from the original cell the cancer cells are. Further away, less differentiated and specialized means worst case scenario. It usually means the cell has less and less characteristics of what it originally was, and now has several mutations and really can only do mitosis. In 1909, a scientist by the name of Paul Ehrlich proposed that the incidence of cancer would be much greater if it were not for the vigilance of our immune system. This suggestion gave birth to the idea that our immune system can play a vital role in identifying and eliminating a transformed cell. 50 years later, two other scientists took his original work and went a step further and proposed that there's a special type of immune cell called a T cell that was pivotal to being little sentinels about our immune response to cancer. And that's kind of what gave birth to the natural killer cell idea. Here's some cancer cells being attacked by our lymphocytes, which are some really kind of cool looking images. There are risks for cancers, and some of them you can avoid or try to avoid. However, getting older increases your risk of cancer greatly, and you really can't do much about that one. Other risks like smoking, UV light, ionizing radiation, you can avoid and lower your risk. You probably can't lower your genetic risk. You can't control who your parents are. You can try to avoid some bacteria and viruses, but sometimes this is difficult. But eating less, exercising more, drinking less alcohol, being active can all reduce your risk of cancer. The immune system probably takes care of most of the cancer cells in your body without you ever knowing, so your best defense against cancer is keeping your immune system healthy. T cells react with antigens on tumors and target them for death. There are several areas of research trying to boost the immune response to cancer and therefore not have to treat cancer with toxic chemicals like chemo or radiation, both of which increase your risk of cancer, which is a little ironic. Your immune system has cytotoxic T cells, natural killer cells, lymphocyte activated killer cells, and antibodies, which all fight off cancer. Surgery is usually the first option if the tumor is accessible and contained, and often surgery can remove it and then you're done. Cancer is gone. If surgery is not an option or isn't enough, then radiation or chemo is often used. The drawback to radiation is that other cells can become cancerous due to the radiation. One of the drawbacks to chemo is it slows mitosis in cells that you kind of want, like more red blood cells or white blood cells. So while it might be effective, it can also have some side effects. Antibodies are another option that they're looking into, however they only work for a short period of time. The aim of cancer vaccination is to place an antigen within the body of a cancer cell so that the immune system can be provoked to unleash the wrath of T killer cells on the patient's own tumors. Armed with the knowledge of how T cells interact with antigens at the atomic level, scientists are now able to design antigens that can selectively activate specific T cells to eradicate cancer. In general, the success of vaccine strategy kind of depends on the mode of antigen delivery, the choice of the adjuvant, and the particular antigen being used. But it is a hot area of research, and perhaps soon we will have some of these vaccines out as trials. The National Cancer Institute reports that the cost of cancer is going up as more and more people get diagnosed with cancer. Great amount of interest in this. $156 billion is a lot of money, and if we could slow cancer rates or prevent it, this would save us not only lives but quite a bit of cash. African American men are at the highest risk of cancer, and Asian women are at the lowest risk. And weirdly, more men die from cancer than women do. If you're interested more in the statistics part of cancer, it's a good little video here put out by the Cancer Institute. So how do you prevent cancer? And to some extent, you can't. But eat healthy, exercise, don't smoke, avoid getting those tans, and get regular screenings. Early detection generally has a better outcome when it comes to cancer. If you want some more information, there's some really good websites here listed from the American Cancer Society, the National Cancer Institute, and cancer.gov.